I'm not gonna lie, I still like the old music better. I need to find out where that audio file is. I I desperately want it. But
Maybe just like play both every single time.
so the thing is, I only have like a 4-second clip of the old music, um, and you can't just like loop it easily to make it work. Anyways, all right. Listen to us. We always start. This is consistent with us. We always start the Thursday temperature check with preamble about how we make the Thursday temperature check. It's very meta. Welcome everyone to 2025. This is, due to scheduling difficulties, the first podcast of this year, and the first temperature check. We missed you. Hope that you had an absolutely amazing holiday. Hope that your bids weren't running over the Christmas season. Hope that all your SMEs were wonderful about getting submissions while they were trying to get down whatever holiday meal or beverage that they were attempting to consume. We hope that everyone in the pie community was good. We always kind of go into hibernation at the end of the year, and so now it's time to start waking it up. And my name is Ben Klein. I am the owner of Geek Proposals, and also for the purposes of this, the Chief Recipe Officer at Proposal Industry Experts, the community that we all love. Rachelle Ray is presenting at the SMPS conference in Houston today. They had some fantastic weather events and barely made it to their hotel. There will be a harrowing tale, I'm sure, in our future about Rachelle not just being a tech gremlin, but a weather gremlin, and totally destroying the world. But to help me out today, oh, you're on this side. Look at that. There's a mirror. To help me out today is the absolutely fabulous, the wonderful Christina Carter. Christina, I'm going to let you intro yourself, but for those who want to know the connection, Christina was so nice to accept an invitation to our Baker's Dozen, and has been advising us across the pond on all things proposals, and has been absolutely fun, fantastic at it. And not only that, I got a chance to hang out with Christina this month in the old smoke. Is what do we call London? Like, is there a no?
I mean, people do call it that, but I don't. Only people like live outside of it call it that, and
Okay.
the rest of us are like, no, it's just where we live.
Yeah, yeah. I'm showing myself. I'm showing myself. She took us to an Indian restaurant where the waiter was very much like, "Hey, you're gonna order something, right? Like, you're not just gonna have coffee and chai all day, right?"
It was empty.
Yeah,
We were fine,
we were
everybody.
fine. We were fine.
He
We did great.
wasn't fine. The waiter
Yeah.
wasn't fine.
But we're going to talk about Christina's upcoming webinar. But let's take it from there. So, Christina, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Chris Carter. I'm part of the Baker's Dozen, but I also have a fun little consultancy where I help companies, mostly B2B, respond to RFPs, set up their proposal processes, their bid libraries, all that fun stuff. But my background has always been, for the most part, in B2B, responding to RFPs, being a proposal writer, proposal manager, proposal team manager, global team manager. I became very important. But no, not really. But a really fun company is like a little tech unicorn called Instructure, then a company called Zendesk, and then Amazon Web Services. And then I decided, hey, let's become a consultant. And here I am.
I love how casually you drop out like the titles that you've had along the way, and then just very casually also drop out like, oh yeah, I was part of like some major tech startups, and oh, you may have heard of Amazon, right? Amazon Web Services, whatever. No big, no big. It's fine. Right?
I'm a big deal. I'm really not. No one thinks anyone in proposals is a big deal.
it's
Yeah.
it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
We sometimes we want to figure out like, hey, who has like star power in the proposal world that we could bring in and like be a big draw at a webinar or something like that. And people are like, there are stars in the proposal industry, right? Like, names
We're
that we've
all
all heard.
stars, Ben. We're all
We're all
stars.
stars. Yeah, the unsung heroes of the sales administration process. That's us. All right, so the reason that we're bringing you on today, of course, is because you have an upcoming webinar series with us. So Pi is trying to introduce high quality webinars this year for our paid membership as well as for our free membership. And in this case, Chris, you had some things to say about getting a seat at the leadership table. So why don't you without spoiling the event, what's kind of the broad strokes of this topic for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what we were just saying. Is like, we are the unsung heroes, and I think that's a problem, right? Because RFPs, as we know, are becoming more ubiquitous. Like more and more companies are using them to purchase services, products, whatever they are. They're getting longer. They're getting to be more important. There are more competitors in them, so they're a huge thorn in sales side or marketing side. I'm going to keep saying sales, but wherever it sits in your organization,
Sure.
um, and uh, but it usually takes it's about 32% of almost every single industry's revenue, right?
Mhm.
So if you sit in a company, 32% of the revenue is or isn't going to come from RFPs if you win them or lose them. So they're hugely important. Usually as a proposal manager, we're the ones who are going to make that or break that proposal. And so if we're not sitting at the leadership table, that's a problem. Like we have to help them decide how to qualify if we really want to be helping our companies make smart revenue decisions. We need to not just help them qualify, but before the RFP ever comes in, if you call it capture process or just whatever influence, whatever you want to call that, you need to sit at that table as well to make sure that they're making smart pre-RFP decisions and then making sure they're taking the response as seriously as they need to, so it's high quality. And then after it's submitted, making smart decisions there. And a lot of times, the sales leadership team or the solution consulting team, whoever it is that's responding, usually gets an RFP and they say, I hate this. I don't want to respond to this. This is a checkbox exercise. This is a pricing exercise, which we know from data that it's not.
Mm.
And so they don't take it seriously. And because of that, it kind of downgrades how important an RFP is in the sales cycle, which we know it's not. And it also downgrades us as proposal managers sometimes because they are not taking it seriously. And so obviously we know that's bad. That's bad for us. And it's bad for companies when they want to get more revenue and grow the business. So I really want to help people to kind of amplify themselves and get a seat at the table. And I want to go through how you can do that in your individual companies. So, oh gosh, where can I go with this, Ben? I have so many thoughts. I'm racing. I'm like, I can't like speak fast enough. But I think, I think, I think there are really specific things that we can be doing as proposal managers and proposal team managers to really amplify our voices. And I think part of the problem is a lot of us have seen proposal leaders who haven't done this very well, which is no shame to them. But like it's really hard for them to go and say, "Hey, look how important RFPs are based on this data that we have, both externally in the industry and internally, and how much time we're saving salespeople, marketing people, technical people, whoever that might be, and then really amplifying that to sales leaders. And I think I want to show people how they can do that, especially in our industry where I feel like a lot of us are women, and we're not always we're like a lot of data shows that we are a little bit more worried about like bragging or seeming like we're bragging, and worrying that we're going to look bad, right, if we are bragging. And so I just kind of want to help everybody know how to do that in a way that is actionable, won't make them feel gross, by bragging, and in a way that is going to make them be seen as thought leaders throughout the sales or marketing teams, so that when they say, hey, we have an RFP, this is important, here's who we can go to understand how to do this in a really smart way. So
Okay.
that's like a huge ramble, but that's what I want to go over.
You were not rambling. You're good to go. You're good to go. And you can brag about how well you presented yourself there. I give permission if it was needed. But no, so this is great, and like it's a constant drumbeat inside the pie community about like what is succession planning inside an organization. Like, I'm a proposal manager now, and because there's no academic pathway to this position, I find that companies in general they really just like create org structures off the top of their head about
Yeah.
what the proposal team should look like, what the bid team should look like, and how it should interface with other departments. They really take a lot of guess, and because of that, as you say, like you're right, we don't often get a lot of like it would be the equivalent of oh, like do we need the accounts payable clerk like at the leadership table? kind of thing. It's sort of in that same line, that same vein. So this is really great, and I like the idea that you're saying, "Oh, we're actually going to give tactical tips to the people attending on like how you can start this process of doing it," and I really like that. So, um, have you have you seen organizations who have done this well, or conversely, like I think that we all can recognize organizations that do it poorly. But yeah, feel free to kind of give us an idea. Like, is there like a perfect structure, or is it really just kind of you have to measure each organization where they're at?
Yeah, I wish there was like one perfect way of doing it because that make everything so easy.
Mhm.
But I really do think it depends on your specific organization and also team. That's probably because like we're all sitting in really different industries with really different setups. Like I'm mostly in tech, so I'm gonna be using my little tech words. But I think for the most part, if you're sitting in sales, sales leaders have really specific things, especially like in the past year, that they've been given directives from like their CFOs and their CEOs of what they need to hit, right? It's going to be pipeline. That's so important. You're going to get fired if you don't hit if you don't fill your pipeline.
Mhm.
You have to have revenue. You have to hit your revenue targets. There's so many things that like sales leaders specifically are going to care about. And if you are sitting kind of away from that, if you detach yourself in the proposal team or the bid team, that's a huge problem. So however you can kind of integrate yourself so that your metrics align with the sales leaders, that's where you're going to succeed. And that's going to, like I said, it's going to look different in every single company. And maybe that means like you have a large proposal management team that sits next to like in your sales team, or maybe it's in your sales operations team. It's not going to matter so long as like your goals and your revenue. Yeah, I guess like your shared goals, your revenue goals are kind of in the same vein.
Mhm. Do
Yeah.
you think that I'm curious here. Do you think proposal managers should have revenue targets? Like,
No. Well, it depends. For the most part, no. Like, it depends how much power they have, right? Like, if you have a proposal leader who really does sit at that sales leadership table, who's like, we decide when we qualify in or out of things, and we help with the pre-RFP part, then yeah, absolutely, because they're doing a lot of what the salespeople are doing. They're acting as like an augmenter for the sales team.
mm,
But if they don't have that power, which a lot of times they don't, then no, absolutely not, because they don't have a huge say of what they respond to, how it was influenced in the first place, and anything that goes on after that. Like if they just have like a really small, important but small role within that whole sales process.
okay, okay. Yeah, all right. Like, and I agree with you on the idea that really you should be aligning your goals to things that are like within your purview or within your control.
Yeah,
Uh, but of course, like from a company perspective, the things that you can control because you haven't been granted a lot of power means that like people aren't going to bring you into big decisions because the things you control are considered minor or outside of executive leadership's stated goals, right? So um, it feels like a chicken and egg problem. Like, hey, I'm not taking responsibility for something, so therefore I can't like make the jump to an area where I have more responsibility. Like,
yeah. Well, I think you kind of have to just, and this is where you have to be bold. And I'll get into like the actual steps to take, but you do have to be a bit bold and say, hey, like when you do show them that data of how important RRPs are
mhm.
and how they might like there's so many ways to do this. I'll get into the workshop, but when you do that, you can kind of assert yourself. And also, let me step back then. Also,
Absolutely.
like you also need to like, of course, make friends, and I don't mean like in a sleazy way, like, but you do need to make friends with your sales leaders, your salespeople, whoever it is in the organization where you sit to help, become that leader sit at the leadership table. And because if they know you, they like you and they trust you. This is like RPs. They're a lot more likely to trust you and want to work with you in that leadership capacity.
Mhm.
So if you can do all that, then you're automatically like you can ask to be a part of that decision making table. Like I don't think you need to have necessarily like a VP or a director level role necessarily, but if you can still get a seat at that table and have that voice, that's okay. I think a lot of times we think, oh, we have to have a very specific, what is that called? The name of what you are. title. If you have a very specific I've been out of a company too long. If you have a really
Yeah.
specific title and you think you have to have that title or that seniority in order to be at that leadership table, you're wrong. Like you really genuinely don't need that. I've been at so many leadership tables where I was definitely like I was a senior manager where everyone else around me was like senior director and VPs and at the C
Mhm.
level. And you that's fine. Like you can still sit there because at the same time, you're gonna know more about RFPs and proposals than anybody else at that table. And so your
Mhm.
voice is just gonna be as important as somebody else's on that table.
Fair, fair. All right. So this sounds good. So the way and you've described it now as a workshop for your session and stuff like that.
Is that
So
what it is?
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost sounds like we need to make the session longer, right? Like as soon as you.
No, I'm afraid I'll bore people. No, but I really will, like, have them like, I really do have really specific steps that I've taken that I've helped other people take, and I just kinda wanna walk you through it and have you not you, Ben, but people on the on the
Why
webinar
not
to
me?
well, you're already, CEO or whatever. But I mean,
Of my
people
individual consultancy. Absolutely.
there you go. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's yeah, but I feel like there are really specific steps you can take, and I wanna be able to, like, give you that time and bandwidth to think about, "Okay, what does this mean for me specifically? Like, who do I need to know? Who do I need to connect with? What do they care about? How do I find out what that is? And how do I connect RFPs to that?" And just
Mhm.
kinda, like, make that step, and I can help people do that. So I do really want it to be actionable, and of course, it is gonna be somewhat generic, but make it so it really is specific to you and, like, give you that ability to think about it in your own individual way.
I like that. I like that a lot. So, if I am reading this correctly, then what we're going to be presented with is kind of a thesis statement of why it's important that you're at the leadership table in some method or regard or something. And then the idea is we'll walk through some kind of actionable steps that you can take right now to move yourself towards that path of taking more responsibility. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, and I hate to bring a buzzwordy thing into this. um, it like one of the things that we talk about in the pie community is this idea of like either growing your role or upscaling what you do. Because if you are staying just at like, I'm a document editor, I'm a document manager, I'm a bid administrator, that you are at risk in your role. Like, do you see this as maybe not just succession planning, but like career protection? Like, are there like outside of like helping your company, is this a way to help yourself really? Like, and maybe that's an obvious question. Like,
How dare anyone care about themselves? Yeah, I no, absolutely, absolutely, and I think, like, that's the nice thing, though, is, like, companies like win-wins,
yeah.
right? Like, so, I mean, if that does mean, like, you get a promotion, you get a raise, you get accolades, whatever it is, that's great. Like, you need that, and you probably deserve it because you're working really hard and doing great things for the company. And when you do that, you're more likely to stay, and the company keeps a great person. So, yeah, like it's a win-win. And of course, like I don't think we need to all be sitting in our roles as proposal managers, being like, I work really hard. That's all I do. Like I think there does need to be some recognition from a company of what you do.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Okay, super. All right, so I mean, that's great. We're going to cover a bunch of stuff in the webinar. If you haven't booked into it yet, it is $25 for free Pi members or anyone outside of the community. If you are a Pi paid member, you get it for free. Go to the Baker's Corner inside the community, and there is a free link there for you, ready to take access to it. Actually, and I just noticed that someone just messaged me and said that they weren't able to use the link. So I will fix that if you are out there watching this and you are not able to get access. I will make sure that all the paid members are get in there because it's gonna be one to watch. So outside of doing fabulous things for Pi, what else is happening in your world right now, Chris?
Ooh, so good question. I mean, I do boring consultancy stuff, but really, um, Yeah, it really is just like I've been really lucky that I've been able to work with like quite a few mostly tech companies, honestly, who either don't have a proposal management team or want a proposal management team or already have a really large proposal management team and just helping them out in whatever way that is. And so I think that's really fun because you go into it and you know there's a problem, but you don't know what it is, and you get to go in there and figure it out and make it. By the time you leave, people are happy, and yeah,
Oh,
that's me.
what a delightful experience.
Yeah.
I yeah, like it was funny when I started my consultancy. My lead gen was for people who had left the company, to tell them that they had worked with this person and it was fun in their proposal process, and then I would be brought in usually on an emergency bid the first time.
Oh
Uh,
shoot. Yeah.
right, like something where it's like, like we're 4 days away from submission and everything's a nightmare, right? And I do something called bid triage. And then what I found, and admittedly, like this is, not necessarily representative of the entire industries out there. But I would find that I would send over my first bill after doing this triage, and everyone was so excited and happy about me being there when like the bid was like in flight, and then when the dust had settled, and I gave them an actual like, and here's how much that cost, they'd be like, "What exactly did you do for us, Mr. Klein? Didn't you just make sure that our sentences structure was correct and like check through a checklist?" And I'm like, yeah.
That's all
So
I yeah.
yeah, that's all I did. I struggled a little bit with it. All right, I mean, but I learned over time to try to layer in value, and I think I'm hoping that you sort of address that in your webinar. Is this idea like you talked about like how to convince them that bids are important, and I think that's where I failed in my initial consultancy a lot, is that I didn't make them understand like how much value I was bringing to them. And so I started creating stats like cost per submission, or like how much revenue they were winning from this, or what the percentage chances of like a win were, et cetera. And that kind of helped smooth out that initial "and here's your invoice" moment.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. But also I invoice half up front, everybody. So
Again, I think you started in the correct manner. Whereas, yeah, maybe for RF Win, we need to have you in the kitchen sink, just giving people, hey, here's how you start up your consultancy a little bit better.
I haven't even reached my first year mark yet, so maybe next year. But I do that at least. Yeah.
If you're profitable right now, like it's a win for me. All right. Well, we are at that time in the session. So Chris, I don't know if you're aware of this. We call this the Thursday temperature check, but it is branded as Tales from the Pitch. And this comes from an old habit that I had when I went to conferences. I would seek out proposal managers and ask for like the wildest stories. Now, I am old enough that most of those stories were around like some sort of printing mishap or delivery mishap with the bids. But like over time, those tales from the pitch have like increased in complexity and interest. So this can be anything. This is a story about your bid career, like a moment in time, like a bid that you were working on, or something that where something went awry, or something was interesting. You know, let it out. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I feel like most of these are mostly just trauma, and then they pretend that they're funny.
That's fair.
Um,
That's fair.
yeah. So luckily I haven't had to do a lot of printing of proposals, but I have had one recently where I don't know how funny this is. So sorry if it's not funny, everybody. Just pretend. Um,
There is no
yeah, I mean,
requirement on you being a comedian. We don't require that of our guests. We just love to hear shared experiences because it makes us all feel connected as a community. If there's like, oh yeah, I recognize that moment.
no, no. So this is kind of like a new thing, and I bet you a lot of us are going to see this now. I was helping one of my customers out, and they received like a huge RFP, a bunch of different documents in it. Most of them were Excel spreadsheets, but they're using an AI native tool to help respond. Automate that first draft.
Yeah.
So I'm showing them how to use it. We upload, and we find out there's like a a column And that you couldn't see when you're like if you're just like looking at the Excel that you weren't probably very aware. But when we uploaded it into this tool, we could see there was an extra column in there that we couldn't see before. And it was saying like what we would be scored on specifically. And Ben, I feel like this story you've told before, so I'm like, I'm really sorry, but it was AI that showed us it to us. So
Yeah.
we had no idea it was there. It just popped up in that new column, and we're like, oh well. Then we just had it. It was, and so we had this moment of like, do we tell them that we know exactly what to score us, or do we just respond based on that score specifically?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was I've only ever had that happen to me once. I've never seen it before AI. Like maybe I'm just not clever enough with Excel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a thing. And like there was like literally 3 meetings, including with the executives, of deciding like what to do with this like special information. We knew that most of our competitors probably weren't using the same tool we were, probably didn't know that that was there. And yeah, it was a fun time. So I won't tell you what we did because I want you to
Yeah.
tell. Uh, but but yeah, I think this is probably going to keep happening. So procurement, if you're procurement and you're hearing this, because things that are secret are not secret. Like you think they are.
That's so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. That is fantastic. I love the fact that you were like not telling us what you did, which makes me think that
And
like,
thank you for laughing, pretending that I'm funny when really it was just like a
no,
am
no,
I a morally gray person? I'm not sure. And
yeah.
now I know. Now I know what I am.
If
So
you are in this career long enough, you will have this moment. Like we took a pre-vendor call, or sorry, pre-vendor call with a buyer, and they forgot to turn us off. And they had 30 minutes between us and the next competitor. And so they sat there talking about the next competitor in front of us.
oh my gosh.
And we're just
That's
sitting
good
there
or bad.
going, and we're sitting there like, do we get off the call? Like, what's the what's the etiquette here? Like, are we in an
Cough.
ethically gray area
Yeah.
right now? And it happens, and you're just like, what's our responsibility here? What are we supposed to be doing? Like, it's their mistake. But the person that you're referring to is Ben Johns. He did a metadata episode for us, about all the things you can do to search for hidden secrets inside it. And you're right. Like most of the time, you do these searches and nothing comes up. But every once in a while, you have this moment where, oh my goodness, there's an entire column of their internal comments or their thoughts about like what they are really seriously interested in, and you just have to make a decision. Do we reveal this to every other competitor? Do we give this back to procurement? Do we just like
Absolutely. Do the right thing, everybody.
do the right thing? You heard it here first from Chris Carter. Do the right thing.
I would never suggest otherwise.
I would never suggest otherwise. That is fabulous. Well, thanks, Chris. That was a great Tales from the Pitch. We appreciate you. If someone wants to find you online, where do they do so?
Oh, find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
It's my name right there. But it's also Christina Godfrey Carter, I think. But yeah, find me there. And
find you there.
and it will
Perfect.
have all the links to all the places.
And if you are a Pi member, Chris is in the Pi community. You can do that little @ symbol, and then Chris. Well, actually, we have a lot of Chris's, but yeah, she will pop
They
up.
don't look like this though.
Uh, it's true. Fair
I
fair
also don't
comment.
look like this in my pictures.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks for taking the time. I know it's late in the afternoon there. So we appreciate you for your time. And yeah, we'll see you around. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, did I totally do that wrong? 100% I did.